special event alert.
I brought the wrong colored t-shirt to change into after PT, which is excuse number 120 for being late for Changeover, your weekly space news and variety show. I'm your host, Marty Smith, and I'm joined by our own ex-chief. Oh, no, not ex-chief. Always a chief. Michelle Zayat.
Hello. Thank you, Marty.
And our very own little mule, Juanito Lopez.
Always sneaking in some insight. That's me.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. We're here to bring you the latest headlines and updates pertinent to all Guardians and to the other lower branches as well. So take your seats, get informed, and have a laugh as we present Late for Changeover. All right.
Some serious applause there, Marty.
Take your seats. Take your seats. Good to see you guys. We got a new crew all made up. Returning to us is Chief Michelle Zayat. Thanks for coming on at short notice. I wasn't sure what you were doing in that retired life of yours, but when I called you and you're like, hey.
You saw how quickly I responded to the text. You bet.
I know, that was great. And Juan is here, free from classes, at least for the night. So
For the night, yes.
how long you got to go in barber school?
I got till December.
December. Wow, man.
And then
that's
after
crazy.
that, I got, they had to do all the paperwork to let the state know that I'm done with my
Sure.
hours.
Yeah.
Once they have that, then I could start setting up my practical first and then my written exam. And then I'll be certified. So after that, it might take a month or two for me to even get certified.
What's the final test you got to go through? Like, what's
So
the
the
final
practical-
eval? Is it like shave an eyebrow? Zip. Okay, check. Shave a
So
mustache.
it's
Check.
a mannequin, yes. And you're
Alright.
gonna, like, when it comes to shaving, there's specific ways and strokes that you have to do around the face, the neck.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna part
All
the-
straight razor, right? All straight razor
Yes.
stuff. Okay. All right.
And then so that's the difference between a stylist and a barber. It's gonna be
Yeah.
barber
Right.
to use the razor. The other thing is you're gonna have to part the hair and show that you could do a perm, that you could do a touch
Whoa.
up color, that you could do virgin hair coloring, like just all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
So-
I didn't know there was that much into it.
To be your color, guinea pig, just give me a call.
Oh, there you go.
Hey,
That's right.
hey, you know what? If you want to go to the school, offer a well. If you just do one solid color, we got you.
Got it.
I remember in the old days of AFES, right?
Mm.
You could go and even though it was, I was just a high and tight, but still, they'd shave your neck with the straight razor. They put the lather on there, they shave it up, and they burn it up with the aftershave or whatever. But then they give you the massage. Now, those were the days, man. And you were so tired during the day, you just everyone would fall
And they
asleep.
would literally, but they'd also massage your head as well as your
So
shoulder.
we do get
Yeah.
trained on that, the different
Really?
strokes, and yes, and same thing, like you do facials, the shaves, the cleansing of the thing. That makes a difference between like a $10 tip to a $50
Oh,
tip.
yeah,
You're just doing
absolutely.
all that.
Agreed. And they come back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you preparing for your clientele to be mostly men? Or are you
So-
obviously you're trained on everything, right?
You're trained on everything. You're long hair. So I purposely, like on Wednesdays, I try not to book people to come in because I have long hair mannequins, and I'm learning
Oh,
how to do
okay.
layered haircuts. I'll use the mannequins to do balayage, like highlights and stuff like that. So just because I know there's a market for it,
Yeah.
and it's just like I just want to know all that stuff. And the clientele that I do come in, they're fades and short hair.
Yeah.
So I've been practicing on the mannequins. My daughter's gonna let me do a layered haircut, a wolf cut on her. So that's coming up soon. So she wants to see a couple more mannequins, and then we'll we'll go from there before she lets me fully. She will let me like cut her all the tips of her hair and stuff like that, and that
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, so
All right, hold on. I'm gonna unplug this cord. Hopefully, I don't lose you guys. Hold on.
All right.
you're muted.
Yep, you went to mute. Still,
There
there you
you
go.
Well, now we can't hear you though. Like it shows you unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Nope. He's there. He did something.
Okay, there we go.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, it flipped. God dang this thing. I wish I had a producer. I wish I could be big enough to be a producer. Hey, we're 97 subscribers on YouTube. We're only 3 away from 100 subscribers. So,
Hey,
so anybody listening, subscribe to us just so I can hit the 100 mark, or so we can.
and
hit
Marty
the 100
will
mark,
make
right?
sure if you are the 100 subscriber, he will get you on the show.
I'll send you a mug.
But you got to tell me how to leave comments, because I watched the show last week, or when it's been recorded appropriately. Last week was vacation week. But how do you leave comments?
Do you have an account on YouTube?
Yeah.
You do? And it won't let you leave a comment?
I might be able to, but nobody else ever does. So I didn't know if there was.
Oh, I know. There's one guy who always likes this. AC, he goes by AC Slater. I'm not sure who that is. But yeah, do it. Man, who knows? Maybe we get groundswell.
Since I didn't see any that they weren't, you couldn't because it's been.
No, it's because nobody comments.
Okay, but you got 97 subscribers.
But maybe we can bring them up with a few stories today to make them comment. So, Jake is in Australia for his job. Eric is in Spain for his wife and pleasure. And poor Anna is, how does she put it? Let me see how she put it. She couldn't be here tonight because she said, I'm getting my poop shoot camera tomorrow.
Oh, she's doing a colonoscopy. Fun, but necessary.
Well, I suppose, yeah.
I
didn't know that was a thing for women. So.
Marty. Oh my God.
I don't know.
I had one at my 50 and I had one at my 60. And I'll tell you,
I have to do it. I have to do it every 5 years.
I did one. I did one a couple of years ago, or maybe it was last year. And my wife was off visiting her daughter, right?
Okay.
And they're like, "Do you have somebody to drive you home?" And I was like, "No." And I'm like, "Well, you got two options. You can either, because they do the Starlight, whatever whatever that anesthesia. If we give you that, you got to stay here at the VA hospital overnight."
Yeah.
I was like, ugh. Or you can go without it. So I was like, let's go without it.
Oh, you took it like a man.
And I was like, I was okay up until this one part. She goes, this part's really going to hurt because we got to go the right turn or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, this is the worst decision in my life.
They didn't even give you a Valium to relax?
Nothing, because I had to drive home. And so they were like, okay, you get nothing. And I was like,
not even a glass of wine, no wine and dining.
Nothing. They didn't even hold my hand. No, they didn't encourage me.
So the second time I got one done, the first time it was a Chinese finger trap. They went through my mouth and my rectum, so they had to do a double thing, right?
Yeah.
So they found some polyps, and then so So after that, you have to go every 5 years. The second time, it's at the VA, but they had contracted out to the CU hospital to come in because they. So I wake up like right towards the end, like not the end, like maybe had like 2 minutes left. Wake up, I see the camera. I'm looking at it. I was like, oh, do you need to go back to sleep? I was like, you know what? Some people pay for this, so I'm okay.
I want to see it.
You started laughing.
I want to look up on the screen and see what I'm seeing. Yeah.
So you took it like a man. Yeah, unintentionally, right?
Unintentionally.
The hubby did his at 60, and he'll be 70 this year. Saved his life. They found
right. I mean, the first one they did, they found a polyp, had to go back in, and
Yeah.
you know,
He ended up having
pull-
a major hemicolectomy where they took out a third of his colon.
oh
wow.
man. And if
So,
he
and that's
hadn't,
10
that would have
years
ran all the way through, right?
If
So
they had not spotted it or thought because it was on the bottom, on the cecum, they call it.
oh
They
wow.
couldn't reach it
Wow.
to take it out during the procedure, so they went in and they cut it here and they cut it here and then reattached it. Saved
Oh
his
my
life.
God.
Yeah.
Jeez, thank God. Right.
Get them done, and then if you have a history in
Yeah.
the family, get it done even sooner. Yeah.
And bring a driver.
And bring a driver. Don't do what Marty did.
No,
Yeah.
do what I did.
And that's greater than 121 while you're late for changeover right there.
Oh,
That
there
could
you
have
go.
been well.
I didn't get anesthesia
'cause
during my colonoscopy. There
I
you go.
wasn't quite as mobile afterwards, so that's true. All right, let's get to the news, shall we? All right, I found this story on space.com, which I thought was pretty fascinating. So, NASA's Dragonfly nuclear-powered helicopter. All right, I guess it cleared a key testing point ahead of its 2028 launch towards the Saturn moon Titan.
Nice.
So that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
NASA's pioneering Dragonfly mission has cleared a key hurdle, keeping it on track for a 2028 launch to Saturn's huge moon, Titan. Dragonfly, a car-sized nuclear-powered rotorcraft designed to investigate Titan's potential to host life past its critical design review, NASA announced last Thursday. You guys want to see it? You want to see this thing? It's really cool looking. So that's an artist's rendering. All right.
1, 2, 3, like 8 propellers all the way around it.
Yeah. And I'll show you a video later, but it's like 3 years old. I was kind of surprised at that. So, but anyway, that's what Dragonfly looks like. I don't know how it's nuclear powered. I really was trying to find out how is this thing nuclear powered. But
nuclear cell in it, obviously.
Yeah, it didn't really say.
Yeah.
Guess how much this sucker is?
You mean cost?
Yeah, no fair if you read it. Don't guess the exact.
No. I'm guessing. Well, you gotta get it up there. The nuclear power stuff like that. I would say 10 mil.
10 mil. Come on.
Just one item? Or the entire
For the whole mission. Let's say for the whole mission. Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that in the write-up. I'm gonna say a couple of billion.
Yeah, okay. One.
Half billion. I'll go with half.
$500 million. It's the $3.35 billion Dragonfly mission.
Yeah.
Was first selected by NASA in 2019 and is being designed and built under the direction of the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab in Maryland. The mission is set to launch no earlier than July 2028 on a SpaceX Falcon Heavy out of Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Spacecraft will then embark on an almost 7-year-long voyage through deep space to the Saturn system, with the goal of spending more than 3 years studying areas across Titan's frigid and diverse surface. It will reach Titan in 2034. And for the next 2.5 years. So 2034. And this is today's dollars that it's 3.35 billion.
Yeah, right. And SpaceX is still a company.
What's that?
SpaceX is still a company. So
well,
don't tell me what will
3
happen,
years from now. Who knows, right?
Years, but you never know.
They might be vandalizing the Falcon 9. Who knows?
There you go.
Let's see. It will reach Titan in 2034, and for the next 2.5 years, a nuclear-powered drone is expected to perform one hop every Titan day. A Titan day is 16 days for us.
Okay.
So, hunting for prebiotic chemical processes at various pre-selected locations on the frigid moon, which is known to contain organic materials. Equipped with cameras, sensors, and samplers, Dragonfly will assess Titan's habitability, looking out for the items that I mentioned earlier. As the only satellite in our solar system known to be blanketed by a dense atmosphere and hosts liquid seas on its surface, Titan has long interested planetary scientists who think the moon resembles a primordial methane-rich Earth and could offer clues to the genesis of life. So I'm going to show you a video. Now, remember, this is like 3 years old, but it's a pretty good you get a pretty good idea of what it looks like and how it works. So they're flying again in the desert somewhere. It's pretty cool, though.
Aerial dunes.
See, that doesn't look like the size of a car, though, does it?
No, that's a good sized drone. It's over here. Unless it's a smart car, though.
Yeah, it looks a little smaller, but
But
again, this was years ago, so it may have. I couldn't find a.
It could have been the prototype.
Yeah.
That could have been. Yeah, right. Could have been.
cool. Nuclear power doesn't have to rely on the sun.
Nuclear powered.
Doesn't have to rely on the sun like the car building.
Well, that one, and even that video said it was set to launch in 2027. Now they're saying 2028.
But the nuclear power is cool because it doesn't have to care whether or not it's in sunlight.
Right. It's not relying on the solar stuff, which has been the bugaboo.
The dudes that landed on the moon just recently and it tipped over. Well, one of the solar panels no longer got any sun, so it got no energy.
Right.
So
that was the second one they tipped over.
That was the second one they tipped over.
Yeah.
It's cool that, but I do have a question. It didn't talk about, will it fly autonomously? Meaning, will it know what to do? And right now, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes for a message from us to Mars to reach any of our rovers.
Yeah, and this is farther out.
Hours. I asked the hubby, he's the expert. He said, how long will it take for a message to get from command center or control center here to Titan? He's hours, 8 to 10 hours there.
Yeah.
And then back. So
well, I can only imagine it's got to be like a pre-programmed hop sequence, right?
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense. The thing that hit me, and that's a good question, Michelle, but the thing that hit me is like, why are we, all the rovers we see are like treads or wheels. Right. This makes brilliant sense. If Titan has the atmosphere, obviously to do that. You couldn't do it on the moon. I get that. But so it would make sense. It's like, hey, fly and land at this next point. And then it lands.
Enough to know where there's mountains and where there's not. So they just have to make sure it knows to stay above a certain elevation so it doesn't crash into the side of a sand dune or something.
It's really smart. All right, Juan, you're
so on the Dragonfly,
yeah,
stats and stuff. According to Wikipedia, and they got all their stuff from NASA. The command is going to take anything from the messaging to radio waves will take 70 to 90 minutes one way.
Wow!
Whoa! Really? The hubby was wrong. I gotta tell him.
Well, Juan's looking at Wikipedia too, so
well, and the resource is NASA. So because according to this, is on the NASA website.
90 minutes there, or is that round trip?
It's got to be one way, right?
One way.
So
Well,
so it is a few hours if you're going back and forth, right? 90 minutes.
Right, okay, so I'll let the hubby.
It's an hour and a half, right? When you do minutes, you think of it shorter, but no, it's an hour and a half one way.
Yeah.
By the time it comes back, you're talking about a total of 3 hours.
Right, exactly.
I think it's smart.
Cool.
Yeah, it's but it does have a lot of moving pieces to it, right? I mean, if one blade doesn't work, maybe it still has enough. Maybe it just limps to the next one.
It looked like it had 8 of them, like double stacked.
Right.
On each side.
I don't know.
Well, and also the payload, like once the rocket goes out there and launches the payload out there, that payload still has to navigate through all that. Like, I don't know how.
I can see them landing it the same way they did the rovers on Mars. Giant balloons comes through.
Right.
Then expels its exterior shell and now powered up.
But it has. But that's another interesting thing, right? Because the normal rovers can like drive away from the landing stuff. Yeah. This thing has to be all clear to move,
power up and fly. Yeah.
Right. What if it gets?
Is it gonna have gyros to make sure, like the payload, like the payload, like where it's inside, for it to actually land
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah. If it
Next
doesn't,
level.
can it right itself? Can it,
Yeah.
that's
Risky,
God dang.
risky.
That's
Risky,
$3.5 billion worth of risk.
it's got to be done though.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
how are we ever going to find out if we can do this? My husband and I are big fans of Star Trek. We've recently picked up Star Trek, or excuse me, yes, Enterprise with Scott Bakula. The
Oh.
not in order of succession, but in
Yeah.
first ever
Yeah.
after what's his name there?
Next Gen, right? It was
No,
after Next Gen.
No,
or
it's
was
even
it?
before. This is 200 years before Kirk.
Oh, okay.
In
No,
the
then I don't
time,
know.
and it's 200 years before Kirk. 100 years after the first guy found propulsion to get into orbit. What's his
Oh,
name?
okay.
Cochrane, whatever. I can't remember. But we are loving it because it
Pike.
shows almost our generation dealing with the exploration that we have to deal
Oh,
with.
I see. Yeah.
You
Also,
know,
they're doing all the studies and stuff.
2137 is the year. So it's only just over 100 years from now.
Did they have warp engines at that
They did.
time?
They only go warp 5.
Oh,
5.0 was the fastest they could go. And they're meeting new Vulcans because they have a Vulcan on the crew. But it's really cool to see how they reference stuff on Earth.
Yeah.
The moon and Mars and then all the other planets. It's pretty cool. But
You think there's been a show more influential on future design stuff than Star Trek? I mean, Star Trek gave us the flip phone, right? It did give us that.
they give us quite a bit. Communicators.
Yeah. Right.
They give us actually quite a bit of stuff. But we haven't done much when it comes to flying.
Well, yeah.
What
Sure.
space or Star Trek has offered us.
Right.
But
Or tribbles. We haven't really solved the tribble
in
problem.
fact, the other night on the show I watched, the doctor, who is a different alien race than human, picks up a tribble he's in the medical lab, and he picks up a tribble and tells one of the crew members what it is. And of course, me and the hubby recognize it from Trouble with Tribble. He walks over and he feeds it to one of his other animals in the lab. It was food. The tribble was somebody's live bait.
Oh, shit.
He puts it in there and you hear the crunch and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I don't do that with a tribble. But it was hilarious. Yeah.
Well, if you feed them after midnight, then they become gremlins.
Exactly, like the gremlins. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
It's funny because my dog Gizmo's right there with me.
Gizmo. Look at that. Gremlin name. Look at how old are we? All right. Okay, let's move on. So this one, I'm interested in your opinions. Okay. This next story is from Task and Purpose, and it's another fitness story from the Army. So the new Army fitness test goes sex neutral for combat jobs. Okay. All right. So this is interesting. The Army announced 2 major changes to its fitness standards last week, Monday. Soldiers in 21 combat jobs will have to pass a gender-neutral test, while the standing power throw will be thrown out for all soldiers because they've determined that causes a lot of injury. So they're standing there and they gotta hork this weight over their shoulder. Yeah,
10-pound ball. Yeah.
I mean, we get enough injury playing soccer. Part of your fit test is to throw this weight backwards. My back already. My back.
What are you going to do on the battlefield? That you've served in what, armor or?
I was artillery. Yeah, we weren't throwing stuff over our shoulder.
Right, you had something that could project it towards.
Yeah, right.
I don't understand why that was even in there in the first place.
I know, it's kind of interesting. But the move rebrands the Army Combat Fitness Test as back to the Army Fitness Test and will become the services test of record starting June 1st. The test, which is semi-annual for active duty and annual for National Guard and Reserve, will carry over 5 events: the 3 repetition max deadlift, hand release push-ups. Now I still haven't really done those, but you got to go down and then take your hands off the ground and then push back up.
Oh, it's not clapping in between.
So you can't get that rock that some of these guys do. You got to go down, take your hands off, and then put them back.
Oh.
The sprint, drag, carry, a plank, and a 2-mile run. So it's kind of nice that they got rid of the sit-ups. That old way of sit-ups that was
What's
no
a
good for
plank?
the back.
What's a plank?
I think just the plank. What on your elbows? I think
Yeah, you're like
elbows and
this,
toes.
and then
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
straight.
yeah. And you got to
So it's
keep
like
your
Like your
body
body's straight, and you're just holding your body,
And I
like
think
you're
you
basically
gotta,
just bracing yourself straight.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
for a period of time. I don't know what the time is, but
Okay.
So the thing about, like, we always talk about how there's injuries, right? And I'm thinking about, if you're doing that with the push-ups, right, and your wrist, right, you're just like
yeah.
catching. I was like, I mean, what's the added benefit of doing that? Like we're in the assessment.
I think what it is because you have this is my guess, but you have too many people who don't go down far enough, right?
Right.
Or you have people who like do that rocking motion to kind of, and I think
Really?
this eliminates all that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what the reps are required. I should have looked that up, but it just seems like so hard to do for like a high number of reps.
Right.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
But starting January 1st next year, men and women will have to meet the same requirements that they are assigned to any of 21 combat-focused military occupation specialties. Though the final required scores were not released on Monday, so they haven't determined what passing is and all that kind of stuff yet.
Right.
But
Right.
it's going to be close, they said. The new, quote, sex-neutral fitness requirements will apply to soldiers and officers in the infantry, special forces, artillery, armor, cav, mortarmen, and combat engineers. For those 21, and they also added special forces, I think. For those 21 MOSs, they will all be graded on the male scale, so it will be sex neutral. Command Sergeant Major Joanne Newman said.
Marty,
Yeah, go ahead.
You just said sex neutral, but will be based on the male scale.
True.
How's
They
that-
should have just said it's going to be based on one scale. But
Oh,
they are.
Oh.
I think they are going to use the male standards.
the male
That,
standard. So, but that's not sex neutral. Unless
Well,
I'm.
it is.
it's a
it is-
standard for both sexes.
It's
That's what they're trying to say.
monosex now.
Not monosex. Okay, but they're going to go with what was set for men, not for what was set for female.
True, which I think will change the minimums. So,
Okay.
it goes into it a little bit here. The passing score for most people will be a 300 with a minimum of 60 in every event. For those in the 21 MOSs, the passing score will be 350 with a minimum of 60 in every event.
Okay.
For soldiers and non-combat MOSs, there's no change right now. They're just going to let that go the way it is.
Right.
Using the current scorecard, I think they're going to alter that, but they haven't decided that yet. Changes are not as dramatically different depending on the event. For example, soldiers across all age groups have to get a minimum of 10 push-ups to pass that event. For the plank, each age group has the same time requirement for both men and women.
Okay.
To pass the deadlift event with 60 points, women 17 to 21 years old previously had to deadlift 120 pounds, but under the new standard, they would have to lift 140 pounds. So a 20-pound increase to reach the minimum. For the sprint drag carry event, women in that age group would have to complete the event in under 2 minutes, 28 seconds instead of 3 minutes, 15 seconds. So they lose 45 seconds on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Command Sergeant Major Joanne Nauman said, I think that it will give every soldier, particularly in those 21 MOSs where everyone is going to have the same standard, it will give them the confidence in themselves and in each other that they're meeting the requirements, that they have the fitness necessary to be in those physically demanding fields. Okay. I tend to agree with that. She went on to say, just like I wouldn't put someone with a low test score on their ASVAB into a cyber job because there's a certain level of intelligence that we assume is necessary to do that job, there's a certain level of fitness that's necessary to do certain jobs, like in the combat arms. It's about being a fit force that's ready to fight.
Yep.
So I agree with that. Think about lifeguards. Let's just not even take the military, but lifeguards for a pool, I believe they have to meet the same standards, whether you're a female or male. You have to lift that amount of weight to save a person's life.
Right.
So I agree.
I think firemen do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
firemen,
I think
yeah.
they
Yeah.
got to carry the hose, they got to carry the body, they got to do all that stuff. So,
I think it's about freaking time.
really,
Yes.
that's interesting. Yeah, good, good.
When I was active duty 40 something years ago,
You don't have to do that part.
No. When you were active duty,
the standards were different for men and women, and based on your age. Did they say in this article that they're getting rid of the age?
No, the age will still apply. It's just no
Okay, so
different
a
male
45-year-old
female standard.
sergeant major doesn't have to run as quickly as a 22-year-old
True.
private first class. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But especially in the combat, I'm glad they made that distinction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's good too.
If this had been Army-wide, I probably would have had a problem with it. But in the combat role, of which I've seen and read many stories, there are a lot of badass females out there that can kick the ass of many Army and Marines in the physical fitness arena. And if you can do it, you do it.
Yeah.
And if you can't, then they'll find another job for you. And that applies to men as well.
Well, there are a lot of guys that they can't pass the standards.
I think this is important, and it may be, if there may only be a 25 to 30% of women that can complete this physical fitness standard, then we're all the better for that 30% of women that can do it.
I think it will also be a relief for the guys, because then they don't have to act like, oh yeah, we're all doing it equal. Oh, she getting an award for maxing her PT test, and I'm like, come on.
We weren't doing it equally. We weren't.
Right.
But then again, it's the same standard. So if I know I'm deploying with my teammates, regardless of gender, then hey, I know that we all had to go through the same training.
Same shit. Exactly.
And then hey, I know that she could pick up my heavy ass and just take me where I need to go in case I fall out.
Maybe
and not even that, but look at how it would change the feel of the whole unit.
The whole unit.
To know that we're all, we're all there. Right?
They've all met that standard.
Yeah.
What I really want to see is the 45-year-old lieutenant colonel.
Yeah, well.
do the same as his 22-year-old troops.
Yeah, that's true. That's that's a tough one. Yeah.
Decisions. They're the ones making the decisions to put their people into battle.
Yeah.
But I think it's finally, and we can put it to rest with Hegseth. You want to make it even standards across the board for men and women, especially in combat roles. I'm all for it. Yeah. And when they pass, they pass. Shut the fuck
up. Right. Yeah. But then there's no question on it, right?
Right.
Because for all our military career, we've been there, and they always say how the Army's, the military's leading the culture, right? Look, we're the first to integrate. We're the first. Look at it. We have women in combat now. We have women doing all this stuff. But everyone knows it's like, but your standards are different.
Exactly.
So
I bet you men could not. And I got to tell this story. Alan's late aunt, who was a nurse, an Army nurse, and then Air Force during World War II Korea timeframe, served in Burma, China.
Wow.
And do you know what they were rated on?
No.
Not only how they wore the uniform, but how well they applied their lipstick.
All right.
I'm kidding you. I have the book.
Really?
They gauged women in the military in the 40s and 50s on was how well you dressed. Yeah. And
it's because of things like that, like things like in history, that the term token, a lot of people always think, it's my token black friend. No, the word token actually came from treating women as that token in the
they're here with us. They're right alongside us.
So like that's actually where the term comes from. And it was like things like that, like treating them delicately or treating them more like, hey, you have to be very feminine, and that's So.
But on the same hand, I remember in the 90s when that big push was to integrate women into the Citadel. I think it was the Citadel was the first not the first one, the first non-West Point academy, not the first military school to do it. And they were traditional. I think it was a Citadel or VMI. I can't remember. But they finally, like, the women won their court case, and there were like 3 of them that went, and they all dropped out like before the first year.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, were you just trying to pioneer it with no real intent to graduate from the Citadel?
Well, but I think they were like the first ones too. So I think even breaking that culture, probably like, you know, they probably had, they're like, oh wow, like, you know, we're getting hazed for doing this, like we're like, I think there's probably other factors, and was it the right way of doing it, and could the school step in? Yeah, but then again, even the school had to embrace that culture. So they probably let, you know what, the men are probably gonna show them out anyway, so let's entertain it. Welcome, ladies.
Yeah.
Well, they had to, right? It was legally they had to, right?
Yeah.
They had won that challenge. But the problem is that it's Citadel. You know, it's not like Harvard Law School. You know, because the Citadel gets assessed with ROTC. They don't get assessed with West Point and all that. So it's a Citadel. I don't know what you're getting out of going to the Citadel, other than a look at me thing. That's what I had an issue with.
And G.I. Jane, that's a perfect example, because in the movie with Demi Moore, it was a senator that was trying to
push that. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
She sponsored her until it became, not comfortable for her to do so. But they didn't change the standards for that character in the movie. She went with what the men did. Now, most academies, Annapolis and Air Force Academy and West Point, you have to pass the same physical fitness standards, I believe. Do you?
You might be right. Yeah, you might be right.
To graduate,
at least, if it's not, it'll be interesting to see when that changes. If they're already changing combat arms.
Yeah, because if you don't really know what role you're going to go into in the Army, if you're going to be combat or not.
Right.
These standards that we're talking about right now are based on combat roles, so 21 different combat roles. But I think it's fabulous, and if they can do it, more power to them. Kick ass.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Where in the Air Force do you think? I mean, because the Army's structured, they have combat arms, combat support, and then combat service support, right?
Okay.
And combat arms is obviously infantry, armor, artillery, that kind of stuff. Combat support is, your medics, your maintainers, that kind of thing. Combat service support is quartermaster, hospital, beans and bullets stuff. So Air Force it's not really rated that way.
There's combat comm.
But it would be interesting to see if, like, they did that for security forces. Right. For example.
As they should. Yeah. I mean, especially we had, Marty, you remember in the 310th, we had many of our personnel, security force personnel, that were there in lieu of Army personnel to Iraq as well as in Afghanistan. And the females that went too, and they had to meet the same exact standards.
Sure.
As the men did, So you've got to be able to do the job. You've got to be able to lift your fireman's carry. You got to be able to reload your weapon under duress. You got to be able to do all the same things that the men have been doing for eons.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you do.
All right. Very cool, man. Let's see what we get any comments on that sucker. But all right, this
hey.
That will be interesting to see how pilots. Speaking of pilots, okay, we all look to pilots. Is there a more glamorous job in the military than a pilot? I would think probably not. Or maybe you could get some arguments, but pilot is generally, you're a pilot. You're badass, right? I mean, we've seen the Blue Angels stand in line. We've seen the Thunderbirds stand in line. Those guys are they're carbon copies of each other, man. Rail thin.
If you're in the Space Force, the space operator is a pilot.
To stop that. How many sorties did you do on that satellite today?
All the time.
Oh my God.
So we're always in awe of that stuff. But there is a behind the scenes portion of the pilots. There's many behind the scenes portions, but this story covers not the most glamorous part, but a real fact of the pilots, right? So from Task and Purpose, Air Force pilots are going to get a new way to pee at 30,000 feet. Now, this sounds funny, and it is funny, but when you go through some of the things that this results in, right, that you don't think about, it's a pretty serious issue, even for a pilot. So for decades, many military pilots who heard nature's call, particularly those who fly fighters and especially women in those planes, faced an unpleasant reality. Use the decades-old, what they call piddle packs, or other devices designed for mid-flight peeing, or they could hold it the whole way, or risk dangerous dehydration by drinking so little water that you never need to go. Did you ever think of that stuff? I was like, whoa, that's what they do? Yeah. Okay. There's a new device dubbed the Advanced Light Relief Universal System, or ARUS, which was developed through an Air Force Innovation Incubator program. But let's go back and see what they have to suffer through. So for as long as there have been planes in the sky, pilots in single-seat aircraft like fighter jets or others with ejection seats have had to unbuckle their harnesses, shimmy up from their seats to find a position that allowed for relief. So like we've maybe not all of us, but some of us have done on long road trips, right? You got to do the same thing, right? In rare occasions, the urge to go has led to fatal accidents, including one A-10 pilot who failed to restrap himself properly into his parachute after using a device to pee, only to be forced to eject later in that flight, and it killed him. I know. I didn't even think of that stuff. But while mishaps are rare, drinking too much water is a daily struggle, particularly for women pilots who fly fighters, who have long found even traditional piddle packs to be woefully inadequate. Many say they regularly fly while dehydrated, hurting reflexes and leaving them susceptible to G-induced loss of consciousness, just to avoid peeing on a flight. Can you imagine that? You're going into a flight with a headache because you haven't drank all day? That's crazy.
And what do they tell you? The first thing they tell you when you travel commercial airlines is hydrate.
Right. You
can't fly all day, right? And you're changing an atmosphere.
And we're not even pulling any G's.
Exactly. Well, we could, but we'd crash.
Yeah, well, inadvertently, yeah. Then your water doesn't matter after that.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
A 2023 survey of Navy flyers found that nearly 93% of female pilots and air crews stationed in California, Japan, and Spain said they would tactically dehydrate to avoid having to pee in the cockpit, sometimes not drinking water on flights as long as 8 hours.
Oh, no. Yeah.
God dang.
Not good.
Researchers have found that dehydrated pilots can have lower G tolerance by up to 50%. Leading to G-induced loss of consciousness, a reduction of the physical and cognitive abilities, headaches, and altered vision.
Wow.
All right, so what are these piddle packs? They've been used for decades by men, and women have to make them work. The devices are little more than a bag filled with gel that can hold about 500 milliliters of urine. For men, using the bag is more straightforward, said Dr. Nisha Pope, a retired Air Force colonel and urologist. But women, she said, have to get undressed and even stand up to use it. Yeah, I don't know how they do that while they're flying.
Do that cockpit, right?
They got to, I guess, pull the flight suit zipper.
I think that they would at least give them a little. What do we used to call those pajamas that had the back door thing?
Like the little Abner kind of thing.
The flap in the back.
Right.
A flap in the front, but anyway, go ahead, Marty.
The new ARUS device began as a proposal for the 2020 Sky High Relief Challenge, sponsored by AFWorks. The challenge called for a urine collection system that could be used by women pilots and for flight missions lasting up to 16 hours. Don't the B-52 guys, weren't they flying from Barksdale over to the Middle East and back?
But they've got other guys.
No, I know.
Pilot,
but the length of the mission. God,
true, but they have bathrooms.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then you put it on autopilot and let another guy take over.
This device comes with 5 different cups for women and 2 sizes for men that are attached to a pump and collection bag that can hold up to 1,800 milliliters or 4 to 7 urinations, according to Colt Seaman, founder of Aerion, the company behind the device. The device also comes with dual knit fabric underwear to make it more comfortable. Okay.
Cool.
I didn't find a picture of it, but they said the devices work so far in Air Force testing. Kayla McCabe, a female fitment coordinator at Air Combat Command's Aircrew Performance Branch, said they found that it, quote, did not hinder movements while pilots were doing critical flight maneuvers, such as close air support like airstrikes and defensive counterattacks. So they're working on it. I never really knew. And the article went on. There was another colonel they quoted she said, I've been bringing this up for 30 years. And I was like,
Yeah,
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got fighter pilots dehydrating themselves.
Or the mechanism that they gave them was not effective.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Just you end up soaking wet or,
like
whatever.
In the first flight, suborbital flight for, the Mercury, or it was Mercury.
Oh, yeah.
And in the right stuff, he says, I need permission to urinate. I've been sitting on the pad waiting to go for the last 4 hours, and he filled himself with coffee that morning, and he peed.
Right.
And the scoop filled up, but it didn't break it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm going to tell you this quick. My daughter works for a company that has fleets of vehicles, okay? And her vehicle had to go into the repair shop. So she was given a loaner that had been used by someone else. Okay. When she went to grab this vehicle and got out onto the road to do her job, she found bottles of urine in the back of the vehicle because the drivers can't find a place to go, right? And they're men, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, women don't have that ability to just keep the bottle and throw it out the window or leave it in my truck, right? So this is great news. Finally, along the lines of the astronaut suits finally being able to fit women appropriately as well.
Right.
Why are we talking about finally designing a way for a woman?
I know. It does seem way overdue, right?
Way overdue.
One thing that stood out in that story is just like if you're given a system or you're working on in a certain environment, the habits you get or the things that you do to kind of get around things, right? I mean, even if you're deployed, you don't want to necessarily walk out of your billet to the to the latrine or whatever. So everybody stocks up on Gatorade bottles because everybody knows those are the best for a guy. Those are the best pee bottles you can get, right?
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I mean
wide mouth, stable base. It's fantastic, right? But the fact that these pilots are like, well, I don't want to, but I better not drink for a couple hours before this 5-hour flight.
Capabilities later in the flight, my cognitive thinking, my ability to handle G-forces reduced by almost 50%.
Right, and only now they're figuring that out. God, I can't. It's amazing that we can get technology to put a nuclear-powered car-size rotorcraft on Titan,
Saturn, right? Yeah,
but I can't get you to pee inside of a cockpit. That's just crazy, right?
No, it is crazy. It is crazy. Yeah.
All right. A couple weeks ago, we talked about Guinness World Records, and we did a story on Ronan the rat in Cambodia.
Oh yeah,
that rat set a world record for detecting landmines in a year.
Yeah.
Well, Guinness World Records is back, and they have a new record, right? This story's from Task and Purpose, and an Army captain sets the Guinness World Record for a bomb suit run.
Wow.
Did you ever think about putting on a bomb suit and running?
So am I thinking of the same suit that was in Dark Zero or Zero Dark Early?
Yep, it's the EOD suit, right?
Yep.
It's the EOD suit. So
okay.
U.S. Army Captain Travis Tuning Kulik. And it's a hyphenated last name, Tuning and Kulik. He's the commander of the 752nd Ordnance Company, Explosive Ordnance Disposal. He just set a Guinness World Record for the fastest mile in a bomb disposal suit.
Shit.
Yeah. Let me show you the picture before I tell you.
Sorry.
Say that again.
I bet you he needed something to pee in when he was done.
I don't know.
Inside the
You could
suit.
probably pee in that suit, and hey, it's full of Kevlar. Ain't nobody's going to question that. So
Wow.
this is Army Captain Travis. How do you say his last name again? Chuning Kulik, running in that full EOD suit. His time was for a 1 mile, 7 minutes and 4 seconds.
Whoa.
A full bomb suit weighs approximately 50 pounds.
Wow.
And he ran a mile in that thing in 7 minutes and 4 seconds.
Jeez.
He did it on April 25th at Fort Cavazos in Texas. The official ruling from the Guinness World Record takes roughly 6 months to be confirmed, but multiple witnesses on hand reported his time, which was a third of a minute faster than the standing record.
Oh.
Let's see. Chuning Kulik's time is 20 seconds faster than the previous record holder. A British Army officer, Mark Gibbs, ran a 7-minute, 24-second mile in a bomb suit in December 2017 for a charity event. That record has stood for more than 7 years. How many people are trying to do that?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, hey, I want to be a bomb disposal guy, so I can break a record. Yeah.
It's like, hey, Juan, what do you think? You want to try for the record today?
I'm like, ooh, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, not today. Not today.
Mm.
In 2021, Army Captain Caitlin Hernandez set the world record for the fastest mile in a bomb suit for women with a time of 10 minutes and 23 seconds.
Wow.
So good on her, wearing.
Yeah.
And for a woman, obviously she was smaller, but it's still the same 50 pounds of suit.
50 pounds, yep.
Yeah, so
Wow.
so that's pretty amazing.
He
You
didn't
know, it's
have
all
the helmet covered down though, unless he took it off as he was running.
Jeez, you're a tough Guinness World Record judge there.
I would have loved to have seen what but anyway, he still carried the weight. That's all.
Maybe you would have let him finish and like, hey, that's a hell of a run, but you didn't have the visor down, so none of it counts.
Do it again. Yeah.
Sorry. Well, we'll come back tomorrow if you want to try again.
Yeah, exactly.
Rules are rules. So, so good on you, Cap. Good job.
He must have lost 5 pounds in sweat alone.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it was only a mile. It's still a mile. A mile is a mile.
Yeah.
But it's not like the Baton March or something like that.
Yeah.
So but 7 minutes. That's still faster than I could without it. So
kind of like with me and Hubby, we're in Renaissance, and we are characters at the Renaissance Festival, and we wear full regalia.
Yeah.
Oh, and I saw you that one time a few years ago.
You did. Yep. And mine weighs about, total with everything on, the belt with all the accoutrement, is about 12 to 15 pounds of velvet.
It's got to wear you out at the end of the day, right?
Well, that's why I now wear suspenders to hold the skirt up at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
My shoulders was killing my kidneys, but
oh,
I can
God.
running in what I wear to the Renaissance, and it was a third of the weight that this guy was carrying.
Yeah, good point.
So,
that's a good point.
Oh my God.
I mean, he's a young guy. He's a captain, so he's in his 20s. But he's going to hate that when he's in his 50s. His knees are going to be shot. His hips will hurt.
And the VA's going to have to take care of him for the rest of his life.
Maybe he's running for his rating. He's like, look at this. This is guaranteed 50%.
Yeah.
So good job, Captain. Good job. So,
yeah. Oh my goodness.
All right. Now is the time when Mr. History would step forward, but maybe we got some competition for our U.S. military history. Take it away, Michelle.
You bet. I would never have known this. One of them I did know because it's been making the news recently. A lot of talk about it in history. So on April 30th, 1789, George Washington took the oath of office for President of the United States.
Oh, April 30th. In April. Oh, interesting.
He was unanimously elected by the Electoral College, and John Adams was elected his vice president. He took the oath of office in New York City on the balcony of Federal Hall. He was reelected in 1792, but declined to run for a third term after that. So on this day, in 1789, our first president of the United States took the oath of office.
April 30th. Well,
April
that's
30th.
a good one. Yeah, that sounds like a Mr. History type of event. So
Exactly.
very good. Yeah,
Exactly.
very
So
good.
there's, like I said, I have this great book that my kids got me on this day in history, and I leave it upstairs as a coffee table book, so anybody that stops by can look up their birthday. So anyway,
All right.
the next one was 50 years ago today.
Okay.
Think.
Wait, a few years ago?
50 years ago.
Oh, 50 years ago today. So 50 years. 50, that's good. 25,
Come on,
so
now.
75.
1975.
Oh, it was the beginning of that airlift operation, right? Out of Saigon?
It was the fall of Saigon.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding. The
Yeah.
People's Army of Vietnam and the Viet Cong occupied strategic positions in the city, including the presidential palace. Nearly all American civilian and military personnel were evacuated from the city, as were thousands of South Vietnamese who had cooperated with the South Vietnamese government. South Vietnamese General Duong Van Minh surrendered and the government capitulated soon after. So as of 50 years ago today, the fall of Saigon. The famous photographs you've seen,
Yeah.
the helicopter falling off the carrier and people grabbing onto the aircraft as it was trying to leave the base port. So,
which looks strangely like the exit out of Afghanistan.
yeah.
But anyway, what do I know?
The exit out of Afghanistan was people clinging onto the landing gear of a C-17.
I know, that's
It's
insane. Yeah.
Crazy.
Now, I'll give you a little latitude on that one because you probably didn't know. I think Eric actually did that one last year, sometime around that. So, Eric, if you're listening, we know you did that one before.
Oh, the Saigon one?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But I bet you he didn't do this one.
Okay.
It's not a military thing, but Ellen DeGeneres out of the closet.
Oh, God.
1997.
Really? That long ago? Wow.
We had her TV show, and she came out of the closet. So
All
anyway,
right.
this is a really cool book. If you can ever find it, it's got a lot of great. But my
Ellen DeGeneres is in that one?
I'm sorry. Yes, exactly.
What?
My granddaughter noticed. My 11-year-old granddaughter just a week ago.
Yeah.
Noticed that the Titanic, of all the 3 days of its last voyage, hitting the berg and sinking, is not in this book.
Oh.
And I said, no, Caroline, you're wrong. And she said, look it up. And I did. It's not in this book.
Yeah, so it's suspect, huh?
Suspect. Yes. It has its own history books, but still, that my 11-year-old granddaughter went looking for it and couldn't find it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty industrious. Like, Grandma, there's only $20 in this birthday card. There's supposed to be $50 in this birthday card.
There'll be more. There'll be more.
Why did you short me on this change?
Yeah.
Write her a traveler's check. Let her try to figure that one out. So.
Right. Thank you for letting me fill in for Eric. But
all right, I'm gonna face the wrath because I allowed a non-military history in there, and I've chewed him out before.
I consider myself military.
You slipped that in. You were crafty there, Chief. You were crafty.
Yeah, I'm married to one, and I've got a library that I could show you. Anything you want to know, you just ask, and I'll look it up.
All right, that sounds like a great way to end up. Unless you guys got any final words? Any final words?
No.
Opportunity again, Marty. This was great.
Oh, Chief, you're great. You're great on there. Thanks for offering the women's perspective. I'm sure Anna's listening, but she's all starlighted up, so she might not remember any of this. But on behalf of all of us here, I'd like to thank you for listening today. Please like, share, subscribe, and let us know how we did in the comments. And make sure next week that you are not
late for Changeover.
Chief One, thanks for the week. Thanks for being here. And to everyone listening and watching, thanks for watching and listening. And we'll see you next week.
Take care. Bye-bye.